Hello and welcome to People, Places, and Things. And I'm Hank Cisco, and with me today I have members of the Silver Spring Martin Luther School. They're all professionals in their own field, and we're going to talk about foster parents and foster care. And it's something that I'm not too familiar with, but I'm going to be sitting here listening and asking some questions. So I'm going to start off with one of the questions for Olga. And before I start, I want to introduce my guest. Actually, make sure you're all here. Okay, ready? Now, Shelley Spears is a licensed social worker, the community-based program director, and Olga Bricker, she's a PhD in development director. And Nicole Grant, she has a BA in caseworker and foster family care. She's also the wife of Mike Grant, the heavyweight champ, who I'm affiliated with in my boxing career. And also on my right here is Raymond and Dorothea Cotton, foster parents. And they're all members and connected with the Silver Springs Martin Luther School. So I want to start off my first question with you, Olga. Who are the children and families served by the Silver Springs?
Well, since 1859, when the children's program began as an orphanage, the children's program today serves children, many of whom have experienced abuse and neglect. And at Silver Springs, we provide these children with a home, a nurturing environment, education, and offer special programs to them and to their families. The core components we have are residential treatment. 72 children live on our Plymouth Meeting campus. Special education through Luther School, the community-based program through which foster family care operates, and family resource services.
And what happens to children once they leave Silver Springs?
Well, really the goal of the residential program is family reunification, to have the child and family unite. So while the children are in residential placement, we work very hard and closely with their families, preparing the families for the ultimate return of their child. There are occasions, though, when there's no family involvement, no relatives to whom the child may return. And in those instances, we work closely with the foster family care program and find a foster family suitable for that particular child. And we're going to meet some great foster parents in just a few moments.
Good. All right, I'm going to shift over here to Shelley. I'm going to ask you a couple questions, okay? You ready?
Yeah.
Okay. What is a foster family care? And who are the children in care? And who are the foster parents?
Foster family care is a service provided to children and families that makes it possible for a child from anywhere from birth till their late teens to temporarily reside with another family, a foster family, when their own home is an unsafe place for them to be at that time. It provides an opportunity for the child to be in a safe place so that their own family, their legal family, can work on overcoming the kinds of issues in their lives that have made it unsafe for them to parent their own children. Issues like alcohol and drug abuse, physical, mental illness, poor parenting that may lead to neglect, where there's lack of supervision of a child, children aren't getting fed as they need to be, children aren't attending school as they need to go to school. To issues of abuse where children are just being maltreated. In terms of who these children are, they come into foster care fairly traumatized, many of them, if not by mistreatment while they were in their own homes, just by being separated from everything that was once familiar to them. They enter foster care, and it's a time that things become really uncertain in their lives, which is a really hard place for children to be, a really hard thing for them to struggle with. Our foster parents really look at the whole child. They think about as any parent would. How can I help this child succeed academically? How can I help them succeed emotionally? How can I help them build themselves spiritually? How can I help them, you know, have good friendships that last, remain connected from where they came? And that's kind of the role and the goal of our foster parents. At Silver Springs, we're a specialized foster care agency, which means that the type of children that we enroll in our foster care program and that our foster parents parent are children that really are struggling in many of their life areas. They're not succeeding in school, they're not succeeding in their relationships with adults, they're not succeeding in their relationships with other kids or in the community. And our foster parents really work very hard with these children to help them kind of relearn what they need to learn to be successful. And they also very much support the legal families from where these children come to help them in becoming better parents so that the children can more safely return home.
Yeah, let me ask you, what are the qualifications for becoming a foster parent, and what is the process?
Qualifications, they have to be at least 21 years of age. They need to be financially stable, meaning that they have an income sufficient to meet their own expenses. They need to have an adequate living space. It could be an apartment, could be a house, but just adequate enough to accommodate additional one child or other children. They need to have a personal maturity about themselves that they can be good parent models, good role models for kids, and they need to be open to learning because we all need to learn and be able to work as part of a professional team.
I remember, just adding on to that, Newt Rockley was a football coach, Notre Dame, and somebody asked, he's one of the greatest football coaches, and they asked him one time, what do you look for in a football player? To be a strong guy, to be a good runner, to be a good passer? He says, what do you look for for a football player? He says, I look for a guy that has the desire to play. And that's the most important thing, the desire to help somebody to be a foster parent.
Yeah.
So I think that's, you know, with all the other things, but the desire to help, and I think it's important.
Yeah, these are in one way, they're very ordinary families. They're folks who, you know, are two-parent families, single-parent families. Some of them are working, some of them are retired, but in a very extraordinary way, they've made a decision to, you know, share their good parenting skills, their love of children with their community, to help children and families.
How many children are in foster family care at Silver Springs now?
Presently, we have close to about 90 children in 90 children in care with us in about 65 homes, and the need is growing.
That's great. And is there a need for foster parents?
Yeah, I mean the amount
Emphasize
of children.
on this. There's a need, right?
I mean the number of children that are entering care is increasing. There are laws that are in place that are trying to move children that enter the foster care system out of the foster care system, because it is a very temporary place for children to be, as quickly as possible. And certainly the goal is to get them home with their own families, but when that doesn't happen, many of our foster children are being adopted by our foster families, which is great for these children, but it also reduces the available foster homes for children that need the temporary care.
You know, the most famous foster parent was St. Joseph. So, you know, that was way back in the Bible days. So
Goes back a long way.
So let me swing over here and say that we have a couple foster parents right here. And how about, let me ask you, why did you choose to become a foster parent?
Well, I think both of us would say that what Shelley was saying, that we found the need to safeguard these children from the things that, you know, happen in society, the different effects from family, society, the environment, and just to create a nice home base for them to, you know, sort of start becoming more reunified with the family and get back into sync and allow their parents time to get themselves, you know, acclimated into life, you know, whatever the reason is that, you know, apt them to sort of lose sight of their goals.
You like being a foster parent?
Oh, yes. Yes, I do.
I like that smile, you know. Good, you know, that's what I like to hear. And why do you continue to be a foster parent? You know.
I guess for the both of us, it's great to be able to see children to grow and prosper and to become the best that they can possibly be, to become just to be in the position to be able to afford them, the best opportunities. While they're either in the waiting period of becoming, going back home, or just being in a home to know that they're safe. That's important. They need to know exactly, to have a stable environment. They need to know that they're stable, they're loved, that there's always someone there, and that's, our job is to make sure that
that
they
desire.
are. Yes, for that desire.
That desire.
Exactly.
I like that. To help them.
To help them along the way.
Right.
So we're
Let me. How have you made a difference for a child through foster parenting? Give me something. People out there want to hear,
As modestly as we can say, we I mean, 'cause that's a tough question because you don't want to sound, supercilious, but I mean, it's for the children to encourage them, to get them confident, to sort of get their self-esteem up. Like Shelley was saying, the academics. I mean, we have to focus on academics because a lot of the children now are up in age, and even though they range from birth to teenage, but if there's children that we've recently had in our home are teenagers, and we're trying to get them acclimated into, starting to look at their own life and look at their own goals and their own future and what they're going to do as parents for their children, and not to become part of the statistic and, sort of relive the whole thing all over again. So, if they're not reunified with their family, which is the primary goal, then what we do is try to get them acclimated into looking at their own life and sort of self-respect.
And on the other flip coin, we've had children within our home who we've walked the walk of actually helping mom get the house, get the apartment, get the furniture, get set up for this child coming in, helping mother to know, well, this is what the child likes, this is how he best he's able to better do things, this is what he doesn't like. And so it's just not necessarily, well, I have your child and, we're not in contact. Reunification is very important, and we try to be involved in that step as best as possible.
Model. We've been blessed to be raised by a family that has given us that sort of that quality or that attribute to be good parents. So what we try to do is model. Not in a conceited way, but just to say, I mean, this is the best way, and it's proven because we have two biological children of our own that we've raised. I have a teenager and a 7-year-old, and we've done this for years, since 1992. So, I mean, since 1992, we've done it to the present, and we're proud that God has made a way for us to sort of give back to the community and to sort of put a mirror in front of us to see ourselves, see the jewels of our life. As
Well,
my
let me
wife
tell
puts it.
I spent 34 years in police work. I was juvenile officer in Norristown, and I became juvenile officer for Montgomery County, and my whole life was, working with juveniles and, arrest, court.
Okay.
But to see, foster parents, hear you talk like that, and I can see the desire is there, and you have the material. And like I say, I hope that people looking out there will say, hey, I want to be a foster parent. I want to help. There's a need for it today.
Amen.
There's more, and I'm very fortunate to travel around. In fact, I will be in Houston, Texas, speaking to National Council of Juvenile Court Judges and DAs, and we talk about this here, the care, the prevention, okay?
Yes.
So I'm very happy to be part of this, to fall in here and hear what's going on, and I take my hat off to you. Well, do more and shake hands and bow to you, Now, Nicole. All right, I'm going to ask you a couple of questions, okay? Shall I ring the bell like Mike is ready to fight? And into his corner, Nicole Grant, okay? All right. Are supports available to a family and child? Is there a support for that?
Yes, there is. Once a child is placed in a foster home, and once a parent becomes a foster parent, there's a whole system of people who are involved with that child and that foster parent's life. I'm a caseworker, and I would say I would be the first point of contact for the foster family and for the child. I'm the advocate for the child. I go work on areas that maybe I need to be in contact with the DHS worker, which is the county worker, or just general information that I need to give to the foster parent on background on how to work better with the child. We sit together, and I'm just an ear for the foster parent. If there's something going on with the house, if there's behaviors, maybe in the home or the school, we sit and work together on coming up with a plan on what would help to make the child more successful. One of the goals is that a child who is placed is successful in the home, that they're not bounced from home to home, that this is a place where they can stay until they're either reunified, or if they're not going to be reunified, could possibly stay there as long as need be. Several supports for the agency. I can speak for foster care, but more specifically for Silver Springs, we have a foster parent support group that the foster parents meet with their peers. They meet together and a staff person with Silver Springs and discuss issues. They discuss foster parent issues in the homes. Some foster parents are much more experienced than others, so they lend their experience or give advice on how they handle certain situations in their home. They discuss foster parent rights, what the rights are among the foster parents. Just different ways to sort of vent, and just talk among each other and get ideas on what makes a child successful in a foster home.
What makes a you did pretty good line you there. You come off real good. I didn't know you had this. When I first met you with Mike Grant was training and all that, I didn't know you were so involved and so educated on this subject here. How about that? That's
Been involved
great.
a few
I'm going to
years.
ask you another question.
Okay.
What makes a successful foster placement?
A successful foster placement. What would you say?
I would
That's
say,
it. Bounce it around here.
Yeah.
Come on, loosen up.
I mean, I'd say, what makes it successful is that the child who's entering a kind of a really scary place in their life can feel safe, can feel secure, can remain connected from where they come from and make sense of all of that, and then get on track about what kids are supposed to be doing. Kids are supposed to be, involved in family life. Kids are supposed to be going to school. Kids are supposed to be out on the street playing ball or whatever. I mean, that they can function in a fairly sort of average way as most children grow up and be relatively successful at doing that. And then from there, kind of move on to being able to, go back with their family or attach to a new family if that's what needs to happen.
And the ability to be able to feel free to cope with their loss if it's a point where they're not going back with their family. Not that they have to keep it concealed or hide it. To be able to speak it out, to sort of identify with it and find ways to cope with it, and help the children cope with it. And that's what we were talking about with venting, getting in that family group, and you can learn and ping pong things back and forth from other parents on how do you help your child deal with the loss and meet that need for that child.
And then you had asked a question about success, what makes a successful placement. The support of the agency, as foster parents, the support of the agency is so very important.
Yes.
Because there are so many issues, this one particular child or children, whoever comes into your home, this child usually, you're just going to learn about this child as soon as they come home. You may have background information, but you may not totally know about this child. And so as time goes on, you may learn, well, this child is doing this child has this issues, this child has this problem, or I have this concern.
Absolutely.
Things may not have been noticed, whereas my husband and I may notice. And so when we bring these issues back to, our agency, our people, our family, and able to say, this is what's going on right away. Silver Springs, I can say, is always there. There's not a time that, if I call on the phone, there's always someone there to be able to say, well, here, this is what you can do. If this doesn't work, then try this. Or if I don't know this answer, I'll get back to you with that answer. So it's very important for the success of a successful placement.
Support.
It's the great support. In Silver
Right.
Springs, I can honestly say, and we've been with other foster agencies. Silver Springs is really on top of their children and their needs and foster parents' needs. So that's what makes us
I'm just going to
successful.
go with what you're saying, yeah, because like Shelley was saying, and if they can help you, training.
There's
they
plenty of
always
training.
get
There's always training,
and
all
it's
kinds of
not
training.
intimidating training. It's
Yeah,
training
right.
that you can apply to your life. I mean, applied to your parenting skills, applied to your family, whatever the need may be. There's training.
I would just like to add too. I think it's wonderful that you're finding that. I think long term too, Silver Springs tries to stay available to families and children as they progress through the programs, grow up, so that some of the foster kids go on to higher education or training of some sort after high school, and scholarship funding is available. There's a campership program. We try to send all the kids in the foster family care program out to camp every year. So there are other ways too that there's a continuum. You're in the front lines, but we certainly want to try to be available to families.
Yeah, let me, Nicole, give me maybe you come up with some kind of an example. But you go into the homes of foster parents
Yes.
and talk to them. Can you remember any kind of live experience or so? What you find, or what is something that you're there to help, and how you help them?
Well, thinking of a foster family in particular, the first thing you find is you see a foster parent is a parent who has extended themselves, who are providing a loving, nurturing, safe environment for a child. And that's the first thing, as a caseworker, you come in and you look around and you assess. You see, is the child happy? Is the child, is there love in this home? Is it safe here? You know, those are some of the things we look for in a home, and those are some of the characteristics we look for a foster parent. One who is able to put themselves out and be a family to a child, and be a support to that child's biological family if they're involved. And to go into a foster home and see this, you know, as a caseworker, that's something that's very pleasing. And also with working with the foster parent, there are several needs that this child may have that a foster parent, as the Cottons talked about, may not have been recognized prior to placement. So as we sit and work together, we talk about these special needs and how we can work together on getting some type of assistance for the child, whether it be education, whether it be any type of mental health services. We all work together as a team, and we come up with the best ways of getting help for this child. Sometimes it'll be through evaluations and assessments. And whatever the results of these assessments or evaluations are, we will then pursue this through sometimes our agency, because we do provide therapy, and or we will go to outside agencies. Just the whole key is to try to make this child be successful in whatever area that they're in, whether it's school, whether it's an extracurricular activity, or the home. Because they're coming in so often with a very low self-esteem, with a very low self-worth. So we want them to go into a setting and feel as though they are just as good and at whatever they want to do as any other child. You know, we want them to have just success in whatever they do.
I mean, I can, just share, just a sort of general experience of how these children come in holding on to kind of a lot of anger or a lot of fear, and they come into a new family setting and they're kind of holding on to all these feelings. And I've had experiences where a foster parent just invites them to come to the dinner table, and the reaction is, some kind of like, get away from me, what do you want from me? And it's like, I only invited you to the dinner table. And it's just kind of working through understanding where that's coming from. It doesn't have to do with who the foster parent is or what they're serving for dinner. It just has to do with the feelings that are inside of the child, and just kind of sticking by the child enough to help them learn more appropriate ways of dealing with their anger, and to start relating to folk and trusting things in a different kind of way, so that when you invite them to dinner, they're like, oh, good, it's dinner.
Right, exactly.
Sometimes it does take a village.
Well,
you know what I mean? You have to implement all these things. You have to.
I grew up, I had a mother, father, I had 3 brothers, 4 sisters, and helped guide me. I had uncles and aunts, helped guide me, And in my police work in juvenile, when you had kids get in trouble, there was no father there. There was nobody that really cared that much, and sometimes they went astray, you know what I mean? So what we're talking here is a foster parent to get in there and help the child.
Yes.
And I think it would help a lot, and maybe our delinquency and this weirdo things that are going on today. would be helped. So we need foster parents that care and take care. I mean, I've been fortunate. Like I said, I grew up with a loving family, and the kids that need help can have foster parents that love them. And when I hear you say that the Silver Springs, is a good support, and they answer when you call, they return phone calls.
Yes.
That's important.
There were a couple
okay?
of situations where
Is that right?
Yes.
I had one child who required hospitalization for a breathing problem, and I called right away. There was somebody on the phone. There's never a time, and get back to you, or fax things that need to be faxed. It's very helpful to have a great support system, and I can honestly say with Silver Springs, what makes us successful is our
support
backing,
system,
is the
yeah.
support system.
I'm so glad to hear that.
And even speaking
Proud.
about going back to your desire, that as you grow up as a child, you realize things in your life that you would like to have in place. So that goes with the desire that we need to, as foster parents, be able to supply that desire and that need for the child's
Yeah,
fulfillment.
taking yourself out of yourself, putting yourself in someone else's
That
shoes,
child's shoes,
knowing that this
absolutely.
child is not my child, but we have the opportunity to protect and care for this child while mother or father or aunt or uncle, or whoever the biological relatives may be for this particular child, until they get themselves together
Be that
and to be
uncle, be
reunified
that
with
aunt.
these children. And if the opportunity presents that it's not working out that way, then for us and many other foster parents, they're welcome to stay until the safest decision is made about in regards to this particular child or all the children.
And that's where, that's that giving. As that's getting deep, that's when it gets spiritual. You know what I mean? You get to that point where that, like you said, the desire, then it has to become a spiritual.
That's right.
Desire.
That's right.
Whatever your belief.
Something in there. Something
That's
that ticks,
right, that's right.
Tick, tick, tick. Okay. Now go ahead.
I was just, you said there's a need. There's a need for foster parents. There's a need for foster parents. There's a need for folks who want to volunteer to mentor children
Yes.
that are in foster care, to spend a few days a month even, taking them out, exposing them to different things, to contribute to scholarships to be able to allow these children to go to gymnastic class, to art class,
Camp.
to go to camp.
Yes.
To provide goods and services, books, toys, clothing, to even provide services to their legal families in terms of
Yes.
furniture, linens, things the opportunities to get involved in this are really limitless.
Okay. Come on. Tell me something.
Well, I can build on
We're closing up. So
I
a nice
hear ya.
closing statement of something.
The point Shelley made is that every day, there's folks say, I don't know how to get involved. The reality is that every day presents an opportunity, whether it's volunteering, mentoring, becoming a foster parent, as donors. I mentioned before, we try to send every kid who wants to go from foster family care to camp. There's an opportunity for that. But really on an everyday level, there's a need to advocate on behalf of children, and we all have that opportunity. We just have to seize it. And
Yes.
And this is what we're inviting folks to do who are interested in our mission to become involved as advocates on behalf of children. And that gift is priceless.
Can I interject one? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
When you were just speaking, when my husband and I say, just in passing, we're foster parents, or there seems to be a misconception among some of the community about the types of children that foster children are. First of all, they are children
Yes.
who unfortunately needed to be removed from their home for various reasons. And they did not choose that. And so since these children have been removed from their home, they need a safe haven to be until something is decided about where they will be the safest. And that's our role as foster parents, to make sure that these children are safe.
They're creatures of God.
Yes,
they're not creatures.
exactly. We've heard a gamut of responses in regards to, these children. These people have a misconception about these children being.
They want to be loved.
We've heard everything about, I don't believe that you're taking a child in your home. And so I just wanted to, state that these children are children. They just want to be loved. And they want to be safe. They want to be stable. They want everything else that you would want in your life. And so if people are able to open themselves and open their homes so that a child can come in to be safe for however long it may be, that you're doing a wonderful thing. You're doing a wonderful thing. And these children are not ogres. They don't.
That's something we wanted to say.
Yeah, they're not-
we talked
yeah,
about. We
they're
were like,
children.
because we get the children get so many bad raps
All right.
as foster children. I mean, they're needed, but they're not monsters or anything. They're
And
children.
that's where those supports come in
Yes.
again.
Absolutely.
Because when you do have a difficult situation or a crisis situation, you want to be able to have someone to call and someone to talk to. Even like with our 24-hour crisis intervention hotline, where you can call and you know any time of day or night someone's going to answer that phone and call you back and talk to you on the phone. They'll talk to the child. You know, there's always someone that's available to you, and that makes it very important when you do have a situation where a child is behaving in a way that you feel maybe hopeless or helpless at that time. So someone will come in and work with you.
And where I think, there is experience of the foster parents, I think like any parents, there's a lot of heartache that
Yes.
goes along with
Yes.
parenting, and a
Yes.
lot of worry and gray hair
Yes.
and all that kind
Right.
of stuff.
Right.
That, from what I hear from the foster parents in our program, what they get back and the rewards that they get back and what they've been able to give back to their community, and just watch these kids that have come through their homes kind of blossom in the community. I mean, it's an amazing thing.
That's a good thing.
We have a lot of laughter at our table. We have a lot of laughter in our home, and so, they are children are a joy to behold, as the old saying goes,
And we have
and they
three
are.
foster children.
Three,
So,
okay.
Yes, yes.
Well, let me say this now. I'm so happy to be part of this, really, and I'm learning a lot and meeting new friends.
Yes.
Being a juvenile, I'm talking like to a juvenile that maybe don't have the guidance or needs some care, needs a foster parent, and and they make mistakes, they do things wrong, and I ended like in a boxing term. It isn't how many times you get knocked down, it's how many times you get up. Shame on you if you lay down and you
Yes.
stay down.
Yes.
See, so we're asking to get up, and also we have foster parents that help them up,
Help 'em
and
up.
that's
Yes.
important, I think, today. So I like to thank our guests for being here today, and we're gonna close it off. We talked about Silver Springs and Martin Luther School and all, but now we got a clip, and it'll tell us a video, the overview of Silver Springs the school. And so I'd like to end it, and thank you very much.
No problem.
Okay?
Thank you.
And,
Thank you. Thank you
okay,
for having
thank you. And I hope everything works out with Mike. He knocks the guy out when that next fight. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, and God bless everybody.
Okay, Tara, will you do the rabbit waters, please? Okay.
I am always moved by the sight of children, so absorbed in happy activity that they don't even know what's going on around them.
Then we'll feed him. Want to feed him?
Here you go. It's a silver phoenix.
Do you like the silver phoenix?
It is so clear at moments like these, the relationship between giving and joy. Children deserve to be loved. However, in this world, love is not always available for children, and for some children, less than others. At Silver Springs, the mission is to care for and nurture children so that they may have the opportunity to grow into responsible, loving citizens, an opportunity that is provided for hundreds of children every day. Silver Springs, Martin Luther School, began long ago, and not so very far away, in the Germantown section of Philadelphia. The personal vision of Elizabeth Schaeffer and other women of Lutheran congregations who wished to care for destitute children of the city. And thanks to many generations after them, this Christian ministry continues here on a 36-acre campus in suburban Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and in other smaller locations nearby. Poverty and neglect still mark our times. At Silver Springs, children find new beginnings and new experiences. If they choose, they may follow a path to a brighter tomorrow. Embraced by people who care about them, children are served and challenged by a strong interdisciplinary program, which, through the years, has turned around many of their lives.
The poor fellow was so cold.
And this is due not only to the ongoing work at Silver Springs and its relationship with the community, but to the environment itself. An environment designed to provide for the safety and guidance necessary for learning to deal with past traumas and for working to gain control over lives. Here is a beautiful landscape and a highly competent and dedicated staff. This is a wonderful facility, fully accredited, with an effective educational and residential treatment program, community-based programs, foster family care, and family resource services. But to the children, Silver Springs is more than the sum of its parts. For them, it can be an alternative world, a safe haven, a home, where feelings of harmony and healthy personal relationships can renew hope and motivate inner growth. It is a place where staff help children and families repair what is broken and strengthen what is weak. The school program offers daily special education for students 6 through 13 years old. Each child's needs, potential strengths, and past difficulties are considered in planning each course of study.
Very good. Now write your name.
For younger students, early identification of learning issues provides a key to improvement. For older students already living with failure and frustration, Silver Springs offers a new beginning. Small classes enable teachers and pupils to interact closely and often.
What does that say?
And carefully considered activities make possible the growth of the total child,
First, and then you smell them.
including the development of caring attitudes.
This is a very interesting one here.
This one?
No, this one's sweet. Touch that.
You're a rock collector, are you, Jessica? Come on up where we can see you.
The residential treatment program provides children with a therapeutic living environment where they receive individualized planning and care on a 24-hour-a-day basis and access to a variety of ongoing services.
That's Bobby. How about you, Jessica? What are you going to say?
Here, the Silver Springs staff tends to the children's emotional and physical well-being and tries to give them the kind of experiences that promote growth and hope. Community-based programs, including foster family care,
Into their after-school programs. I'd like you to come
family resource services,
and possibly bring your son with you.
an after-school program, and summer programs help children and their families in specific ways. In instances where a child's immediate family is unavailable, foster parents provide a home and opportunities for that child to experience a nurturing family environment.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Remember in the lunchroom for a little nap.
Children may be medically fragile infants, toddlers, youngsters, or young adults. All children are supported by individualized services.
Okay.
Family Resource Services reflects Silver Springs' commitment to a continuum of care that begins whenever a child or family first enters its programs. By serving as an available source of support and guidance for as long as each child or family wishes, Family Resource Services represents Silver Spring's focused response on a case-by-case basis to those extenuating circumstances that can debilitate a family and, consequently, jeopardize the well-being of a child. Silver Springs takes a wide-ranging, holistic approach to the developmental, emotional, educational, spiritual, and social well-being of children and their families.
Coming to Silver Springs was like going from the fire to being up in the clouds. I thought this was paradise. Silver Springs was like family to me. It became my mother and my father. The other children were like sisters and brothers. It was the first time in my life I found people who cared about me and stuck by me, even when I got into trouble. My Silver Springs experience was the best time in my life. The 3 years on campus was my childhood.
So what makes all of this possible?
Save someone's life.
It is the love of God.
Get your wish, Emily.
Children
My next
themselves,
wish would be to go home with my family and to live happily and to live.
the soaring potential in each of them,
How about you?
the inspired people who work at Silver Springs, and the generosity of contributors. When you think about it, Silver Springs is a joining of resources, and that is exactly what all children need. Silver Springs is a healing place. Now, and in the years to come, Silver Springs will be here, learning and loving and growing, and finding a way from our hearts to the hearts of others, helping children of promise to find their way too.